everybody. This is Jon. Welcome to Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with Sam Rosen. Sam, it's good to connect with you. Appreciate you taking time to be on the show. You are the founder and CEO of Deskpass, and industry-leading online marketplace offering access to teams and individuals, thousands of unique working co-spaces, conference rooms nationwide. Sounds like you are the portal for 2,330 plus private offices in 260 cities. So let's talk about work from anywhere. We saw COVID hit in mid-March 2020. Everybody was working from home. Many companies out there, specifically large companies, Fortune companies, many said, hey, we're never coming back to the office. In the last year or two, we've seen a lot of people actually change their mindset and have people want to come back into the office. And so now we've got an eclectic collection of companies who are full-time back at the office, 3 days back at the office. And yet we have a workforce where there's a larger percentage today that has a great skill set that is requiring / demanding a hybrid workspace, but need their privacy. Enter Sam Rosen, Deskpass.com. So talk a little bit about, that's kind of what I see as a business coach and
of course,
solopreneurs to Fortune companies. But what's your pulse on the market?
I mean, I think what you said is right on, and thanks for having me, Jon. But yeah, I mean, look, I've been doing this for a while. I opened the first co-working space in Chicago about 15 years ago, and have been building technology around this space since then. So I've seen like a fundamental transformation in how companies and people think about the office, think about going to what the office means. And, I think the way that I like to distill it is, pre-COVID, most people just had one idea of how we work, where we work, and it was going to the office. And most companies were not thoughtful and progressive about thinking about that. And, fast forward to COVID, like you said, and the world changed. And some of the same companies I talked to pre-COVID that said, Sam, we're never going to use your product. We're always going to be in the office. That's where we get our work done. That's where our books are, that's where our people are, quickly changed their tune a few months into working from home and realizing how well it actually works. But I think our philosophy is office is an ecosystem, right? The idea that HQ is going away, I think is silly. I mean, for some companies it has, and it might, but for most companies, I think what you see is their traditional office, they're taking less space, right? Their lease just rolled. They're thinking, well, do we need all this space? And they're really reevaluating what is the purpose of this office and building an environment that's more intentional. Like maybe our office is for sales. So let's build like a great space for our clients. Maybe our space is about collaboration. Maybe our space is about research. So let's take less space. Let's be more thoughtful about it, build a better space, build a better environment, save some money. And then aside from working from home, which doesn't work for everybody. If you got kids, if you can't focus at home, if you don't like your spouse, there's a lot of reasons why people might want to work somewhere else. And there's this incredible infrastructure that has popped up of these third spaces, these co-working, flexible workspaces that companies are starting to tap into.
Yeah, let's talk about how they're starting to tap into. I like how you're talking about with purpose, with intention, and being progressive. One of the things I see is, I coach salespeople, managers, owners, executives, et cetera, solopreneurs to Fortune companies. And I don't say that to impress anyone, but to impress upon one of the things I see is people that were hired during COVID and worked from home and were by themselves, their learning curve is behind. There is an element of being around other people in your office where you just learn, I think, faster. And so one of the things I would think would be something that I want to kind of explore with you is, hey, this office is for the entire sales team. We have satellite offices, through Sam's company, Deskpass, where, the admins can work from one of these 3 offices around the country. The tech department can work, and we want you to be around people and not just distracted every time your dog barks when the UPS person comes to the door. So there is, I believe, learning with human beings around you. So what is, if we look, 2-3 years, ahead, what is the model of headquarters plus Deskpass?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'd say is I think like some of the biggest, fastest growing companies in the world are fully remote, and it's possible to create fully remote companies with great culture and great camaraderie. It's just hard, and most companies aren't good at it. I think for most companies, bringing people together intentionally is really, really valuable. At the
Yeah.
cadence that they do that really depends on the company. You see some companies that say, look, everyone's remote, but twice a year, we're going to bring everybody together. And once a quarter, we're going to bring our sales teams together. We see a lot of companies that, and sales is actually a pretty interesting space for this, right? So like one of our biggest clients, which is a great case study, and we see this case study through our business, is a one of the biggest companies in the world, and they have sales teams, right? And over COVID, they divested from those sales offices because they were underutilized and empty, and most of their employees should be on the road most of the time anyways. So what they did was they said, look, that kind of crappy sales office we offered that was pretty far away from where you lived. And this is not just in big cities. This is in suburbs. This is in rural communities. We're going to get rid of it. But in lieu of just saying work from home, now we're going to give you Deskpass. And Deskpass offers thousands of workspaces that we would love for you to go to and we're happy to pay for. And those workspaces include, like, I need a hot desk for a day, right? I just need a place to sit down for the day. I need a meeting room where we're going to bring our sales team together every week and we're going to meet in person, and that's going to be our in-person stuff. Or, hey, maybe I'm working on a special project at the end of the year. I need a private office for a few months to get my work done. And we're happy to support you. And the reality is, by leveraging a network like Deskpass, it's far more cost effective because I'm only paying for space when people use it. I'm not paying for space that sits empty, that's not utilized, that I'm committed to for a long time. So it allows companies to learn, like, what do my employees actually want?
Yeah.
Where do they actually get their work done? Where are they productive? And let's invest more in that and not invest in the other stuff.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so talk to me. I like the whole vibe of it. I'm curious to see where we go as as solopreneurs, as mid-sized companies, fortune companies, because I do think there's the younger generation, the 20-somethings. I think there's a lot of them that I'm going to make an assumption right now, but I think it's kind of split. Half of them want to go and be in an office and learn, and half of them want to work from home and have their freedom. And so I'm curious to see what happens over the next year or two, because I think there's a balance there that is still working itself out. But I think it's great that there's companies like yours that have a one-stop shop where they can kind of see, hey, here's the portal. Here's the portal that you can just kind of pick and choose. But here's my question to you. As an entrepreneur yourself, where did the idea spark to become this portal? And then there's the decision to you have an idea, and then there's a decision to actually take action. So how did you turn it from an idea into a business?
Yeah. So, before this business, I started a branding agency called One Design Company, which is based here out of Chicago. And like I said, we were really early on finding co-working and opened the first space that called itself a co-working space in Chicago. So really quickly sort of became attuned to what I think is becoming really clear now, which is most offices are pretty empty, and underutilized. And that's not a new thing. That's not a new trend. That was like that before COVID. Offices are often way underutilized, and most people never cared before until the world changed.
Yeah.
So this notion of having a workspace that you can share, that's very efficient, that's closer to people's home, that brings together like-minded people, I don't know, it always really connected and clicked with me. And then we started to build software around helping co-working spaces manage their space, right? The billing, the scheduling, the operations of it.
Yeah.
And we were really early, and we talked to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of spaces. Pretty hard thing to sell for lots of reasons I won't bore you today. But what we started to hear when we were listening to our customers was, look, Sam, I actually don't need fancy software to do the billing. Like, there's lots of stuff that exists. But, when we started, we were in the top, first 400 co-working spaces in the world. Fast forward today, there's 40, 50,000. So what we were hearing was, what I could use help with is filling up this empty space and putting some, butts in seats, right? And that's when we started to change to this marketplace where we realized we could offer a really great way to help people find these spaces and fill up these spaces. And that's where we could provide, a lot of real value to the people who we were talking to.
That's great. Let me ask you a question from a branding perspective. You have a branding background. I think sometimes when people grow a business, sometimes they don't know how to brand, how to clearly message. What are the most important things, the one or two things of building a company today when it comes to building a brand and getting people to emotionally connect to that brand?
Yeah, I always think it starts with listening, right? The best brands listen to their customers. They really try to listen to the market, understand the market. In One Design, the agency, one of the frameworks which I really adore, which we use a lot with our customers, called VCI, right? And it's this idea that when you talk to a company, you're trying to understand their vision. The vision often comes from the top brass. And when you ask them, give me an elevator pitch of the company, they'll tell you something, right? And then there's culture, right? And that's ask employees, ask salespeople, ask your office manager. And they will often explain the company differently than the CEO, right? And the executives. And then image, talk to your customers, talk to your existing customers, your past customers, talk to prospective customers, and they're going to give you a totally different perception of your business and your brand.
Yeah.
The best companies find the Venn diagram. They find that intersecting piece of what connects with everybody, and they really focus on that. And I think focusing on that and then trying to find a white space in the market and see how your competitors represent themselves and take that core and try to express it in a unique way. I think that's what really creates a strong brand.
Yeah, I love it. Let me ask you a question. The obstacle of the biggest obstacle that you had to face starting your business, what was it and how did you overcome it?
We've been doing this a long time and we were really, really early. So I have a lot of people coming to me saying, Sam, you're in the right place at the right time. And I often say yeah, I've been here for 12 years. Where the heck have you guys been? Starving.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we always very believed in what's happening, right? Which is the way we work is going to be interneted, like the newspapers and and media, and it was obvious. But I think for us it was trying to sell the right thing at the right time, and that has evolved and changed throughout the business. So the other thing is trying to sell fractional offices during a global respiratory pandemic.
Yeah.
In the heart of it, don't recommend it. Hindsight, it was a beautiful thing. It really changed the world. But that was a tough thing to get through a business like ours.
Yeah. All right. Well, kudos to you for getting through it.
Thank you, sir.
It was we all had the challenges, and that was a tough one. Let me ask you a question. As an entrepreneur, I think sometimes people fear going into business for themselves because it's lonely at the top, and sometimes you don't have someone to talk to. And so, where's an area you get stuck? How do you get unstuck? And what's the lesson learned from it?
I've been an entrepreneur forever. I've always had a company, and I think what a big thing that led me down this journey was just being a kid and being kind of ignorant to the risk and sort of the fear related to it. And I think that's such a inhibiting factor for most people to get started. And I have a lot of people that have come into my life and said, Sam, I have this idea for a business, and like I feel like they're at the edge of the cliff, and they're just like coming to me and they just want someone to be like, no, dude, push, go, like jump over, jump on the cliff, off the cliff. And I think that it's fear. Like, and the older I got kids, I got a mortgage, I got employees. Like, I feel the weight and the risk of that more than ever. But to most people who are thinking about getting started or, considering it, like I say, try it. I think people often look at like, it's one step at a time. It's a little step at a time. You don't have to have everything figured out. And often the worst thing that happens is you fail and you learn a lot of really great skills. And I argue that makes you a better employee, a more valuable employee, and a smarter business person in general. So I think it's all about, the fear and tackling that.
I would say I agree. It's like you just got to jump in, and I've made a bunch of mistakes, and some of them have been big, some of them have been small, but they're just kind of, some of them are expensive lessons, and some of them are less expensive lessons. But you can only learn so much in a book, and you sometimes just got to like learn on the sword, and fortunately. So, a couple questions, quick speed round.
Let's do it.
Book that's had the biggest impact on you.
Oh man, there's a book I love so much called The Diamond Cutter, which is a book that kind of is about like Zen, like Buddhism, and
I love it already. I've never heard of it. This is amazing. Yeah,
it's really cool. It's basically about a guy who tries to break into the diamond industry. He becomes a monk and becomes like a very devout monk, and his teacher says, go into business. And he tries to break into the diamond business, which if you're not like an Israeli Jew in New York is a very, very tall order. And it's all these business lessons, but it's wrapped up in sort of that philosophy, and that there's some really cool stuff that's
I just bought it on Audible. I can't wait.
You're fast.
That's the best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Oh man, this is kind of cliche, but like, trust your gut, man. Like that's all you got, and you gotta trust your instincts and make them better, even by, like you said, making mistakes and failing.
Yeah, good. Last question. One thing everybody as an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur can do to let go of fear is?
This is not an easy thing to do, but I think it's having a really good support system, having really good partners and people in your life, and telling them, this is silly, but it's not silly. Like, I once almost lost everything, like 3 companies by one jerk. And I came home to my wife, and I was, in tears, and I said, I lost everything. And in that moment, like she didn't care. She really didn't care. And I realized how lucky I am that, like, as an entrepreneur, as just a human, you have so much ego, and you tie your identity to your business and your job and your work. But like most people don't. Like most people are like, that's Jon, and he's a good dude, and he's my friend, and like that's the attachment they have with you. And I think it's really easy to lose that. So having really good friends to remind you that they're friends with you because they like you and not because you're an entrepreneur, you got a cool business, I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I agree. You've been a pleasure to talk to.
Thank you.
Tell everybody who your ideal client is and how they can connect with you.
Yeah, we work with all sorts of companies from small to big, and we help them, and it's all pay-as-you-go on demand. So I think most companies are like trying to figure this stuff out. So if mid-market, we often go to some of the biggest companies in the world that work with us. So if you are like, hey, we need to figure out this flexible work remote thing, Deskpass.com. I'm Sam at Deskpass.com. Email me and we'll connect. And even if we're not the right solution for you, we talk to thousands of companies and know what's going on. So if we can't help you, we can point you in the right direction.
Perfect. Sam, this was great. I'm a business coach. I work with people who are successful, stuck. I get them unstuck. I love this podcast because I get to have guests like you who can shed some advice, guidance, and lessons to help people get unstuck. One thing that I just want to extract from something you said, Think Community, is moving with intention. I think it's really important. And I think we, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as employees, as managers, as leaders, we're in a time where we need to all continually evolve in how we move with intention. It's harder to recruit. It's harder to retain. People are feeling more connected, emotionally connected to their own personal values and freedom. And so people are personally moving with more intention, which means I think companies need to step it up as well if they have not. But it's really, really important because to me, when we talk about intention, it's about that extra moment of pause to really think in a more multidimensional way, which companies need to do and make sure that they're not moving too fast. And so I think the way that you talk about not only yourself with intention, your company with intention, but how companies are having more intention that are working with you, I think is great. I think community, as you're thinking about how you move personally and from a business perspective with intention, just make sure you give yourself the 30 or 60 seconds you need to just stop and pause and move with intention. You'll get to the same destination, whether you run, walk, or jog. So slow down a little bit. Sam, this was great. You can, if Sam and his company can help you, deskpass.com. If I can help you with any coaching to grow your business, you can reach me at jondwoskin.com. Sam, stay on just a minute, but this was great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, John.